Alright. Ще започна на български. I'm starting at Bulgarian just to greet everybody. So, здравейте всички. Днес е 6 март 2021 година. Това е света на криптовалутите. Аз съм Пламен Андонов. С мен е Иван Иванов от Crypto Network и Алеш. So, we're switching to English as our guest is not Bulgarian. Aleš, could you please, for the viewers who do understand English, introduce yourself, like what do you do and where are you from maybe?
Yeah, so I'm basically coming from Slovenia. I'm a software engineer, similar to Pламен, I guess. I live in London still, and this is where I work, this is where I live. I have my kids here, my wife, everything. And I'm basically a crypto Bitcoin enthusiast. That's about it. Anything special?
Yeah, no, that's about it. Yeah, because you said you're a Bitcoin crypto enthusiast, can you please tell us when was the first time you remember that you heard about Bitcoin, even if it was on the news or some colleague talked about it and then you didn't look it up?
I think it was somewhere in 2011, 2012. One of my coworkers was like really into it, and he introduced me. But back then I was like, no, this is nothing. I don't think this will ever work out. And he was also a software developer as I, and he was doing some odd jobs after the main job. And I think so. He told me that he was getting something like 5 to 7 bitcoins at that time per hour. I think Bitcoin was like $4 or $5 at that time. So, but if you calculate today's value, that's like $250,000 per hour of work if he kept all those Bitcoins. And I know he was complaining, oh shit, I'm not getting paid well and blah, 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 things like that. So that was my first encounter with Bitcoin. And to be honest, I dismissed it. I was foolish, I guess. I guess everyone had its own first encounter and thought, okay. I think the problem was that I didn't properly analyze it. I said, oh, this is just some fluke, something that will go away. I didn't put any effort into analyzing it, into researching it. And I said, okay, this will go away. And then I think the next time I remember, it was like $200. And I said, okay, this is interesting. And then it dropped again. And I said, okay, this is just random noise. I didn't know. I forgot about it again. And then when I truly became like properly interested was here in London, actually, when one of my coworkers, he was like super deep into it, and he bought like Ethereum, like loads of Ethereum at like $3-4, and then even more later on. And he was like super deep into it, and he told me, yeah, I bought Ripple, and then Ripple went up, and then he bought with the money he made from Ripple, he bought more Ethereum, and then Ethereum went, I think, to 1,200 at that time. So I know he made like millions and millions. And when you know someone personally, like doing this, and then you start researching, then you start talking more, and then like you start following different people, you start to like following news, all those things, and then it's okay. And then you start researching the rabbit hole, right? And then once you understand how everything works, and it's not just random noise, so the price is not just randomly going up and down like crazy. And once you realize that, then it becomes interesting. I think that was, 2017 was when I actually not understood it, but like when I said, okay, this is something I need to research more.
And when did you buy? When was your first buy? Before you understand everything very well, or after that?
After. I mean, and to be honest, I was trading on eToro because I already had an account there, and they started offering that, and that's not proper Bitcoin. It's just basically you bet that the price will go up or down, and that's it. So it's not, you're not buying Bitcoin, you can't transfer it anywhere. You have a contract that you bought at a price, and you can sell it at a different price later on. That's it. And that was my first like trade with Bitcoin, but it wasn't proper Bitcoin. I also started following some people that trade Bitcoin, because on eToro you can follow people and copy trade them, right? Yeah. And it was slightly profitable, but the amount of money was really low. I was just playing around. And I think then I opened an account on Coinbase, and that was when I like actually bought my first proper Bitcoin. And I dove into it, I started researching it, and I wrote a couple of articles on one of my blogs. And because it was so early, on some of those topics there was no competition. I just wrote an article and I was receiving like 100 visitors per day. And I just had a referral link for Coinbase, which at that time I think it gave you like $10 worth of Bitcoin if someone signed up on Coinbase and they deposited I think $100 or something. So I was just saying that was the majority of the Bitcoin I was getting. I mean, it wasn't like huge amounts, but it was something, and that something then snowballed into more and to more. And then I discovered, okay, shit, I still didn't quite understand how Bitcoin works. And okay, Bitcoin is already quite expensive. I'm quite late. That was my thought process at that time.
At what price was it at the time? At what price was it at the time?
I think it was when I was doing it, like when I was getting some money from my blog. I think it was like 4 or 5K, something like that. So that was before it went to 20K already. And I was thinking, okay, Bitcoin is quite high. Looking at back, like yeah, it's quite expensive. And I started looking at other altcoins. So I bought some Ethereum. I bought some other coins. I don't even remember. And I bought Verge. I bought $20 worth of Verge. And I think like 3 weeks later, it was like $1,200. And I was like, oh shit, this is like insanity. Like 20 to $1,200. And what I did was basically, I didn't solve. Obviously, I was an idiot. So I watched it going down, lower. and then okay, I sold and I bought some. And I still sold for quite a good profit, to be honest. I'm not saying, I probably sold like at 700, something like that. But the idea there was, I bought some other shitcoin.
Yeah.
So, and overall, I think it went quite well until like end of December 2017. I was all hype, all everything. I was like 99% in shitcoins. And the value went up quite good. And even like Bitcoin started going down, and shitcoin, I think Ethereum still went up in January and February. And I was like, okay, this is like money-making machine. And I was like doing all big plans and everything. And I was like, okay, this is going nuts. And then it crashed everything, obviously. So it went down. I still hold all, I mean, not all, but like a lot of those shitcoin from then. And I just, once it loses like 89% of the value, it doesn't make any sense to sell it. It's like a lotto ticket. It's low profit, low likelihood that something will happen with it. But if it does, it will like 100x from there. So I just never sold.
And you keep everything until now?
I mean, most of them, some of them actually pumped a little bit. So I sold them afterwards. To be honest, I don't know if I'm in profit on those. It's not a complete loss. So I still have some Verge from that time because I sold it at roughly when it was like the $20 were worth about 600, 700. And then it kept dropping. And then I bought a little bit more. I was hoping, okay, it will go up again. But we had 3-year bear market, so everything went down. So I still have Verge, for example. I still have some other coins from that time. Some of them were actually delisted. But, you know, even if you put like, I mean, the amounts of money I was playing, that was small. And if you divide it with 30, 40 different shitcoins, like how much money you put in each one there are small amounts. And so it wasn't like a big loss to me. But it made me aware that like altcoins are much more risky. So yes, they can go up, but you have to be much more careful. You have to have a proper plan and everything. With Bitcoin, I think it's okay if you just buy and hold. With everything else, it's like highly likely in 5 years that coin won't exist anymore, or it will be worthless. Mm-hmm. And maybe, I don't know, 3%, 5% maybe will be worth something, but the majority not. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. What's your plan now, this time, this bull market?
So I think 90% of the money I have invested is in Ethereum and Bitcoin. And I would say like 60% Bitcoin, 30% Ethereum, and like 10% everything else. And from those 10%, the majority is in the new ones like DeFi, things like that. So that's my current plan.
much smarter this time.
Yeah.
I'm similar, and for everybody, the first bull market is a good lesson.
Yeah, I think once you get like 2 cycles through, then you know how to handle this. So I'm still learning a lot. It's still trying to catch the ropes, and I know that some people are making insane amounts of money with the pumps that are going on, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to follow what's happening. Like you have one point pumping, and then I think that this is something I think now. Once one coin is pumping, you basically take a portion of it and put it into something similar that hasn't pumped yet. So some people are doing that, and it's working out for them. But it's quite a gamble. Everything is a gamble. I think if you want I think Bitcoin is the safest bet. Then it's Ethereum, and then it's everything else. And I'm not saying those are the biggest gains. They're definitely not. But if you don't want to lose money, and if you don't want to be constantly checking, I think just put it there, and then you can relax.
I think most of the people who trade altcoins and create those altcoins, at one point they will take profit, and of course they don't like fiat currencies or other investment classes, so they will put this profit back to Bitcoin. Yeah. So sooner or later, all these pumping altcoins or shitcoins, the profit from them will go most probably in Bitcoin or Ethereum, because Ethereum, I think like you, most of my portfolio now is in Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe similar percents. And that's in bull market. In bear market, I guess probably 100% or 80% to 100% will be Bitcoin, because I know that Bitcoin will fall
the least.
At the least, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think at one point I'll just sell all my altcoins, especially the ones that are like super crazy, and just put everything into Bitcoin. That's my plan. And then I'll probably sell a portion, or I'll try to sell a portion. And then I don't think I will sell everything, even though if I think that after the bull market that you have like another 3 years of bear market, it's difficult to time. So my biggest fear is that I miss the bull run. So for example, if you sell at one price and you think, oh, I gained a lot of money, I made a lot of profits, and then the Bitcoin keeps going up, because you don't know how high it goes, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And that's I prefer not to do that, and maybe say, okay, I think it will still go higher, and it doesn't, and then it falls down, because I know in 4 years there will be another bull market, another halving. And I know that next time the peak will be even higher. So at least I know, I believe, that's my belief.
So how long do you think this will repeat, these 4-year cycles? Forever? At one point it should be different.
I think this year will be slightly different. That's my theory. With all the fiat printing and all those things, it looks like it's like putting gasoline on fire, to be honest. That's on one side. On the other side, everything is overinflated, and we never had a proper stock market collapse during Bitcoin bull, like in the last 10, 11 years, right? So we probably know that Bitcoin will also go down if all the stocks go down massively. So I think that's highly likely, but we don't know how much. Maybe it's like 40%, 50%, but we don't know. So that's a big threat. But even if that happens, I think that's dangerous if you're in leverage positions, so you can get liquidated. But if you're in spot, I think let's say that next week stock market collapses. For example, let's say the American S&P goes down like 20%. That's a huge drop, right? I think Bitcoin will drop massively as well. But unless you're actually leveraged, you don't care, because I think in 6 months it will be much higher than it's now. That's something I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's painful. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, looking at the S&P 500 chart, I've given this example so many times that I really remember it by heart right now. 94 to 2000, it goes up. In 2000, it crashes, goes down until 2001 or something. From 2001 until 2007, it goes up. 2007 starts going down and goes to the same level where the previous time it went down in 2000. Yeah. So 2007 starts going up again. It crosses the line where it was before that in the 200 in the 2007 and continues up and up and up. And now it's like 2 times higher than that point. And it's 12 years in a bull cycle. The biggest blop downhill is the Corona crash in March 2020. Yeah. And we have like a triangle up, a V-shaped recovery, and then we continue up. Now we are again like quite a few percentages higher. My question is, do you anticipate a proper correction, just like in 2007 or 2000, which means like, I don't know, like 40% or something, and that it takes years to recover? Because again, from 2000, it takes until 2008 to recover to the same position. So this is like what, 8 years? And now, do you anticipate that this is going to happen, let's say, in the next 1 year or the next 5 years, that we're going to have again a mass correction that's going to take years and years to recover? And if this happens, what would you say is going to happen to Bitcoin? Because if the price goes down, this means you have more sellers than buyers, but someone is selling. So someone's getting the cash. What does he do with this cash?
The problem is, it's not necessarily cash. Maybe it's leveraged cash. And a lot of people are leveraged. And that's the biggest problem. I think with all those things that are happening now, if everyone would be leveraged without leverage, I don't think that would be a problem. I think the problem is the leverage into everything. Money is super cheap. And you see Michael Saylor is borrowing billions of dollars basically for free and buying Bitcoin with it. And he knows like in 6 years, Bitcoin will, like, unless asteroid falls or something, Bitcoin will be worth more than it's now. So it's like super safe bet, and it doesn't work out, he's willing to risk. So he's doing the calculated risk. So he's borrowing almost free money for something that's almost certain. And that's, I mean, from a mathematical standpoint, that's a good bet, right? So you know that something is highly likely and I don't need to pay a lot of money to bet on this. So, and that's what he's doing. And in stock market, I think that's even bigger. I think there's so many hedge funds, there's so many different funds. So, and a lot of them are leveraged through the gills. And a lot of instruments are packed onto those indexes, stock indexes. So it's not simply, okay, stock goes up, stock goes down, and then you sell and you make profit. So it's a much more complex game. I don't think I understand it completely, but I think the leverage is what. So when you buy, and you're actually in profit. But even if it went up 50%, for example, since the last peak from the bull run, right? But if those people are leveraged to the gills, even a 3% drop can liquidate them. And those liquidations then, when you close a long, it's basically a sell, and it's like rocket fuel to go down, and that's what's causing those super like aggressive.
So you mean that we have a price going down without actually someone getting money for it?
It's quite possible, yeah. I mean, it's always the people or the funds that are the first one to sell, they make money, but then it already drops, and then it's like when we guys trade, it's like we don't have I'm not assuming, but we probably don't have billions of dollars trading in Bitcoin, right? So you can just market sell and nothing happens, right? But if you're a hedge fund, you can't market sell. It's like, that would be a catastrophe, right? So it's much more complicated for them. You can't just close it without impacting the price even more. And that's what's make it difficult, right? And also a lot of people started trading this year because of COVID. They're at home, they got some money, they don't have jobs, they're on furlough. So they get free money, nothing to do, and they say, okay, I'll put $500 into this. And they start trading. And because everything is going up, they're making money, right? And say, oh shit, this is going up. Oh, and they make more money and more money. And it's like a Ponzi, right? So it's going up and everyone is buying and everyone is happy. No one is cashing out the profits. Everyone is only putting more in and more in. I'm not saying everyone, but like the majority probably not. And I saw some videos from people like, oh, we mortgaged our house and put all our money into stocks like 2 weeks ago. And I don't think that, I mean, if you know what you're doing, that's fine, I guess. but I think like 90% of the people don't know what they're doing. They've just been trading for 6 months. They never saw a proper market crash. They don't know how to be like risk aware, how to calculate risk. So for those people, that's extremely dangerous. And we already have, so for example, New York, I think like 40% of commercial property is empty at the moment. No one is there. And that's already creating a downward spiral for real estate in New York. I mean, a lot of those neighboring areas, like commutable areas, are like they're seeing price increases, but there's a lot of money trapped in New York, for example, and in San Francisco and in other big cities, and it's similar here in London. So these are big changes. A lot of people have, like, none of this is bought with cash, or none of it. Most of it is not bought with cash. Most of it is borrowed money. Now, if you borrow something and the price goes up, it's fine. But if I borrow like $1 million, $2 million, I have 100K, but I borrow 1 million to buy something, and my plan is I'll lend it out. I'll have tenants there and they'll pay me my mortgage. So when they decide, okay, I don't need to be in the city anymore because everyone is working remotely and everything is closed anyway, I don't get my rent, I can't pay my mortgage, and that's usually how things start unravel. And I think it's quite a dangerous moment now because everything is super high. And we have this unwind in like top tier, high price real estate. That's one of the, you know, when something starts dropping, it's like the domino. So something needs to push the first domino. And in this case, I think the real estate is the first domino. I'm not saying it will happen this week or next week. And I think like the Fed is doing everything they can to buffer it. And they said they want to print unlimited amounts of money. And unlimited for us, it sounds like a crazy idea. But if you print money out of thin air, you can literally do that. So they have the possibility to do it. And it's scary. It's scary that one nation can print unlimited amount of money and nothing happens. Can you imagine what kind of power that is? Like, we have 7 billion people, 7+ billion people going to work every day, like for those like small wages. And there's some group of people in US and here in UK, it's not just the US, it's like all over the world. And they can just print money out of thin air. And then they can borrow it for interest, and that money has to come from somewhere. And I think that the stock market is definitely ripe for like a major correction, but until the Fed and Bank of England and European Central Bank, until they're willing to print unlimited amounts of money, they can hold it up. And the question is just how long are they willing to do that? So I think we saw something similar with the Swiss franc. I don't know which year it was, but I think at some point the Swiss bank said we're not letting the Swiss franc go above this value. They wanted to keep the value of the Swiss franc low. Yeah. And everyone knew that. You remember that?
I remember.
The value relative to what, sorry?
Against other currencies, for example, against US dollar, for example, or euro.
Okay. Yeah.
So they said, we're not allowed, I don't remember the exact exchange rate, but let's say it was 1.3. I'm making this up, so I'm probably wrong. And they said, yes, we're not allowing. So you could see on the charts, it was like a bum, and everyone knew that. So it was really a profitable trade, right? And you could go leverage like balls did because the differences was quite small, and you knew after it, like when it got close to that price, the Swiss bank stepped in and it dropped. So you could make good trades, like low risk trades. And at some point, then the Swiss bank said, "Okay, this is costing us too much money. We're not doing this anymore." And the Swiss franc, like shoot up in value against euro, against dollar. And yes, traders lost money, but I think that the biggest loss was for a lot of people had a lot of mortgages in francs. So for example, I don't know how it was in Bulgaria at that time, but in Slovenia, for example, let's say you could get a mortgage for 5% in euro, or you can get a mortgage for 2% in Swiss franc. And those were the official rates. I'm making numbers up again because it's such a long time, but it was quite a big difference. And the bank employees, they advise you, yes, but if you take the mortgage in Swiss francs, your down payment will be like 20% smaller than if you took it in euros, and it's no difference for you. And then I said, yeah, but what about the risk about the currencies, like the price currencies differences? And said, oh no, the Swiss bank is holding the price steady. And people like bought houses on it, and like thousands and thousands of people bought houses on Swiss franc mortgages, and it was working fine for a long time. So they were paying much less money. And then the Swiss bank decided, no, we're not doing this anymore. This is too much money. And I think the Swiss franc went up like 30% or something. And I imagine you have a mortgage for like 100K, 200K, and from one day to another, it's like over the night, it goes like 60% or 30% or something like that. And your down payments go up. And I remember he was a friend from a coworker, and he said, I'm repaying the mortgage for 7 years, and I still own more than when I initially took it after 7 years. And he said, like, this is not, I can't do anything about it. And that's the risk. So we know that the central banks can hold the stock market afloat for how many years they want, if they're willing to pay the price. But once they're not, it will crash. And the longer they do it, the harder the crash will be. And it's also possible that they think, okay, if we hold it too steady for too long, this will be too pricey, but maybe they just let it crash for 10% or 15% and then they step in. But I think if we ignore that, the stock market should probably already like correct, at least to some extent. But I'm not a prophet, I don't know. It's too many big players which they have their own plans.
And it's manipulated.
Yes.
You cannot be sure what will happen next year, after 5 years. Not like crypto and Bitcoin. You know how many Bitcoins you have after 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything. Fed, ECB, all these central banks, they keep this bubble, they keep the value of the stock market up. After 1 year, the economy is closed in most of the world. So we should see really, really big crashes everywhere, not only in stock market, in real estate, everywhere. I think this will be if we have free market.
Yeah.
People will be scared. They will go to cash, for example, or gold. But we see different things. We see all-time high everywhere, like the economy is booming. And this is not normal. This is not logical. People need to not only to have job and work, they need to follow the economy. They need to follow the news. They need to listen YouTube videos and everything to know what is going on.
Yeah, and one of the things that's also like super distorted in those indexes, I think the biggest 5 companies in S&P, for example, it's like 90% of the index value. So if those 5 companies go up and the other 495 go down, the index still goes up because they hold 95% of the value because it's weighted, right? So if Tesla goes up and if Google goes up and if Microsoft goes up, the index goes up, even if the rest of the 400, like the other 400 stocks in that index go down, because they have so much value, they keep everything up. And I mean, I'm talking just about the index. I'm not talking about stocks in general. But that also gives you a false impression that, oh, stocks are not dropping, everything is fine, but no one is making any business. So the real estate is suffering, the travel business is suffering, the air flight business is suffering, all businesses related to those businesses are suffering. So everything is suffering, but everything is fine, right? Yeah.
Everything is fine, but we should see soon some inflation. It can't just go like that, everything to be the same. Yeah. Now there is no money velocity. People don't spend. but when the economy is open, I think when people start going again to the restaurants, traveling, cruise ships, everything, we should see inflation.
On that topic though, of people are not spending, the thing is that I'm not under this impression. I do know that a bunch of my friends saved some money during the last 1 year because, you know, you can't go now to Spain and so on, like you can't travel, and therefore like a bunch of the budget that before that was spent for, you know, stuff like that, now it's saved. However, I have a bunch of friends that bought new phones, bought new cameras, like they're not traveling, but they're still buying these toys because they, you know, they feel the need to buy something, you know, to have a new toy. And I know a guy who bought a Mustang, like what the hell anyway. So, so my point is that people keep spending. Maybe they shifted what they spent on, but I do think that they still spend. What's your personal view on this?
I will quickly say something. That's not the stuff we will see the inflation. Not laptops, cell phones. We will see on inflation on services, education, medication, stuff like that. That need real people working there. Not real people, but you know what I mean. The technology stuff will not get expensive. We cannot expect every year cell phone or new TV to get more expensive.
But they are though. Every single new iPhone is getting more and more expensive. Every single new one always gets 20% higher price than the previous one.
Okay, this is one case. But most of the stuff, I think, for example, I think Michael Saylor said that, and I agree. When everything open, and when we have so much money supply, bigger money supply, the first thing we will see that will be more expensive will be, for example, the salad that we order in the restaurant. And he said that it's very possible that in New York or some other, never mind the city, after 1-2 years, we can see double of these prices.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I think, I'm not sure about the salad, but I think the inflation is calculated completely wrong, and I think it's done intentionally like that. Because so the official inflation is like, that's the biggest number the government is looking, the
CPI, Consumer Price Index, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and it's basically a basket of things and how much those things went up in price, and that's it. It's a simple formula. But the basket is quite small, and it doesn't include a lot of things which we people need to pay, and I think that's wrong. So I think they're following mostly food and some other items. I'm not quite sure what they're following, but if you look at everything else, how much the housing goes up, how much the gasoline goes up, how much I don't know, other things goes up, like travel, going on holidays and things like that. Like, you should take what the average person is spending month to month, and how, like, I mean, you should have like a broader basket of things, and that's how that number will be much realistic. Because I think at the moment, I think like 80% of the things in that basket are coming from China anyway, and China is dumping the prices. And if you want to have the same item that you could buy, like, let's say, I'm making something up, but let's say you like something electrical that used to be produced in Europe 20 years ago, the price was X, and now they're comparing that product against something electrical coming from China, and we all know that China is much cheaper, so you can't compare those two prices like versus 20 years ago, because China is China. They have lower cost of wages, they can afford to have lower production costs. And it's not, I don't think that's a good representation of how the inflation works. It's like, I remember when things were like, it's different now. It's like, I look at my parents, how much money they used to have, and they don't receive less money now, but they can afford much less, and it's difficult to quantify, because it's different. Though you have more needs. You have to pay for the internet. You have to pay for mobile phone. You have to pay for God knows what. and all those things went up. Like housing in general went up, the rents went up, everything went up.
Taxes.
So the inflation is 1.4%.
Yeah, but that's it until now. I think this CPOI, some people say that doesn't believe. Until now, we have the government or the Fed say that we have around 2% inflation, and the real should be 5 to 6 to 8, for example. But I think this year, next year, probably will be something like they will say it's 5, but the real will be like 20%.
Yeah.
What do you think? I expect something like that.
I think the closest thing to like realistically assessing it is how much more money there is in circulation, right? So I think that they print like 40% of all the dollars in circulation in the last 1.5 years. How is it possible that inflation is 1.4% in the US if they printed additional 40% of dollars? Because that money has to go somewhere, and someone has 40% more money, and they have 40% more purchasing power. So basically they diluted everyone else that wasn't part of that drop, so to say. And for me, that's inflation. Because if we look, how much can I buy with X amount of money, but everyone else except me has double the money than me, is that actual inflation? It's not just how much one single item costs, it's also how much money there is in circulation.
I was just thinking about that. First, I really like that you used the word diluted. And I remember actually there is this term called stocks dilution when you issue new ones. And indeed, it's literally like you really, this is at the expense of every other shareholder that already have share. Now he's messed up because you just added new to the pool and he didn't get anything. Like let's say split the share. So if I had 10, now I have 30 or 100. That's fair, and let me sell, the cheaper now shares to whoever wants to buy them. But don't dilute the pool. And I was thinking about this because people really have hard time understanding how unfair inflation and printing money is. And I was thinking of a good example, like how can you explain to someone? And I was thinking about a game and the Monopoly game. Like imagine you're playing a few people, friends, you're playing the Monopoly game, and someone is completely irresponsible and he constantly buys every single one of the plots that he gets in, and he builds these houses there and hotels and so on, and he doesn't keep any cash to be able to pay the rent when he lands on something. And then he bankrupts, but instead of bankrupting the banks, like, oh, here is a bailout, here is like $1,000, and like, what? Like he was supposed to lose the game. He was not supposed to be bailed out. Like that's what happened in 2008, literally. And on the other point, like imagine the banker also playing, and whenever he wants, he just takes money out of the bank and starts spending them. And would you continue playing this Monopoly game where one player is also the bank and he can use whatever cash the bank has? That's insanity. Like literally, this is how unfair the system is right now. And circling back to Bitcoin and the limited supply and the whole printing of money and so on. So we talked about is there a crash coming? We talked about real estate, the situation in New York, and overall around the world in not residential but also commercial buildings that it's really bad. So what would you expect? Let's say in 2021, like what do you think are the most major factors that are gonna play a role? I saw someone in the chat, I didn't see the name, but someone said, guys, let's go back to crypto. This person does not understand. We are talking about crypto, mate. Like you just don't get it. Everything's connected. Like crypto is nothing if the rest of the economy didn't exist. Like crypto is a part of the economy and it's so affected. Like literally if you talk about S&P 500 and you talked about a crash in S&P 500, you talked about a crypto crash. Dudes, like whoever is listening right now, understand this. You cannot just focus on crypto. Crypto is just a super small baby asset. It's nothing. It's being played around and it's being much bigger forces are affecting it. So it's very important to understand what exactly is happening on the macro level, on the macro economy, not just think about crypto. If you're just thinking about your shitcoin that you hope to do 100x, sorry mate, you're a gambler, you're not an investor. Okay, that being said, So circling back to crypto and talking about the 2021, what do you think are the most major events that are going to affect crypto? And just I haven't finished it. I'm watching a podcast with Raoul Paul from how's it called? His Clear Vision, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Something vision. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And he said something that I didn't hear so far anyone else saying. He said that the Coinbase IPO is going to actually get in the way of the bull run a bit. And here is why. A lot of these investors that want crypto exposure now would be able to buy, instead of Bitcoin, would be able to buy Coinbase shares. And here is why this is a very good alternative. Because Coinbase makes money regardless what happens to the crypto, right? If it goes down, goes up, trading, they make fees, they make profit. And if you buy their shares and they make more profits, the share is going to go up and so on. And the idea is that now they have an alternative, how to have a good exposure that is unrelated to the price. So this is like a new alternative to again, be kind of partially in crypto. And the other thing is that I would like to bring is to me, so far in 2021, the biggest event that is going to have insane effect is obviously the MicroStrategy, MicroSaver, Bitcoin for conference for corporations conference.
Yeah, first of all, I completely agree. If you say let's go back to crypto, it's, as you said, everything is related. And if there is a massive stock crash, like last March, there was a small stock crash, and Bitcoin went down like 40% in one day or something like that. Like it was, I still have like trauma from that day. Imagine if like a proper crash happens, it will go down and people with leverage will get liquidated. That's a given. So everything is correlated. That's one thing. The other thing is you have to look at the inflation. And the printing of money. So if the US government is printing 40% of dollars and is not represented in the inflation, but like people like Michael Saylor, they understand this and they say, okay, I'm losing this much money, I'm being diluted because the government is printing money, I don't get anything from it, and I have 500 million sitting in my bank account, and that money in 5 years I'll be able to buy less things with those 500 millions in 5 years than I'm now. So he knows that 500 million is losing value, and that's why he bought Bitcoin, because he knows in 5 years Bitcoin will probably be worth more. So you have he's certain that fiat will be worth less, and it's highly likely that Bitcoin will be worth more. That's his thesis, right? And the biggest catalyst now is that the government is still printing money, and he was just the first big whale that started understanding this. Now, MicroStrategy is far from the biggest company in US. There are many, many bigger companies. And there are thousands and thousands of really, really big companies. And if all those companies start doing the same as Michael Saylor did, and even if they put 5%, 10%, 3%, it doesn't matter. But if the tidal wave starts doing this, now the printing of money, now the global macro situation starts making sense for Bitcoin, right? So because all those companies start entering, because it's not for investing. They're not investing to make a quick buck. They are hedging against the valuation of the dollar. And that's their strategy. It's not, oh, I want to double my money, I want to 100x my shitcoin. No, they know they're losing money, and they had a lot of money. They have a lot of money on their books, and they say, okay, if I put 5% in Bitcoin, 10% in Bitcoin, whatever percent, they start tipping their toes into it. And then they say, okay, I lost 10% of my 500 million, but on the 5% I put in Bitcoin, I doubled that money. And they say, okay, this is working out for me. So I basically offset all my losses with those 5%. If I put 5% more, I can offset even more. And I think on one side, that's a huge catalyst for like a super cycle. I think a lot of people this year are talking about a super cycle. And I think it's quite possible because so far we had only regular people entering, more or less. I'm not saying only. So it was more or less only retail entering and playing with Bitcoin, depositing $1,000 or $5,000, whatever. And that was like the 80 or 90% of people doing that. obviously there were big entities entering and billionaires entering. I'm not saying they weren't, but the majority of people were like that. But this year there's a major shift. So we have big corporations entering with billions of dollars. Like Tesla was the next one. Twitter is also possible to be one of those next ones, right? And the more companies enter, the more other companies will start to feel the pressure. Okay, if everyone is entering, I don't want to be the last one. That's always a game. So whatever you play, you don't want to be the last one because you know then you lose anyway. So soon, and I think it's already happening, and I think Michael Saylor is aware of it. That's why he's buying everything possible with his, I don't know where he's getting the money lately, but like every couple of days he's just buying more Bitcoin. Because he's the one, he has the blueprint how to do it as a big corporation in US, as a publicly traded company, because in America you have special rules. So if you're a publicly traded company, you can't just say, oh, I'll buy Bitcoin today. It's like, it's a proper legal process, it's expensive. I don't know even how it's done, but he has the blueprint. So he paid the lawyers to figure this out, and now he's giving it away for free to people who want to consult him. And because he's doing that, he has like direct access to all the people doing this, and he knows, oh shit, like 100 companies, 1,000 companies, they're gonna start buying Bitcoin. And because he knows that, he knows, okay, I need to buy as much as possible at this moment. And I think that's what's happening now. And that's why I think printing of money was the catalyst to start all this. And even Michael Saylor himself is like, I wasn't thinking about Bitcoin until last March. And last March was when the US started printing money like crazy. And I think that was one of the major shifts for bigger entities. And you also talked about Coinbase. So Coinbase is, I think in early estimations now is like 100 to 120 billion worth. And I think I heard somewhere, I'm not quite sure, but it's worth more than JP Morgan now. The thing that some cryptos exchanges is, I don't think they have like a proper, like they probably have like one small office somewhere or maybe two, but it's not like JP Morgan. They have like entire buildings in London, for example, in New York, and that company is now worth more on paper than JP Morgan. And you said it's a proxy for some people to get exposed to crypto without actually buying crypto, and I think that's a valid point. But there is also another thing. So while Bitcoin can 10x, Coinbase, I don't think it can 10x in revenue. That's my. I'm not saying it can't, but it's more likely that Bitcoin goes up 10x than Coinbase. I mean, it probably can also if the volume increases, but there is a lot of competition.
I agree. Yeah, there's other exchanges that compete for this volume. Also, now DeFi enters the space of the volume wars. The other thing, though, about Coinbase is that they're becoming bigger and bigger custodians for their institutional buyers. So I feel like these services, and God knows what other new services, could be streams of new revenue.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happening with DeFi now, that's. In one word, I mean, for me personally, for people at least, I think that would be a much bigger disruption than Bitcoin itself. So Bitcoin itself is like, it's a store of value at the moment. That's everyone that's in Bitcoin said, okay, this is it's a deflationary, anti-inflation protection. It's something that can't be seized. It's censorship resistant, all of those things. So that has its place, and it's the biggest one, and it will probably keep its place. But on the other hand, we have this DeFi, the decentralized finance, and I think in 5 years you will be able to get your salary and do everything without entering a physical, like a old school bank. You won't need to have a bank account anymore. You won't need it, and you'll be able to do everything online. I mean, a lot of things you can already do with the banks today online, but in 5 years you don't care if it's Sunday afternoon. You don't care about that. You have your own wallet. You deposit your Bitcoins. You get the loan. You buy something. You can do whatever you want with it. If you have money, you can put your money to work and things like that.
This is the thing that I'm honestly every single day. The more I think about it, I'm more fascinated and more just like blown away by how the loans work in DeFi. It just makes so much sense. I have a Bitcoin, it's worth this much on the free market. I deposit it. Let's say I get 1/10 or 1/5 of its value. You give me the loan. You're safe. You have the collateral. I'm happy. I'm gonna pay you the interest. We're gonna keep the collateral. Easy peasy. And at the same time, I'm thinking, because I took like a 10K loan or whatever, if I need to take a 10K loan right now, I don't think any bank is gonna give it to me. And the other thing is, even if I do, it's gonna be a process that's gonna take like a week. I have to go there in place. I have to give my ID card. They're gonna ask me a bunch of questions, fill in a bunch of freaking data. And one of the things that I hate the most is like, here's your ID card. Now please fill in the data in this blank from your ID card. It's right here. Like, take a picture. Why do I need to retype it by hand from this to this document? And then, oh, thank you very much. 5 minutes later, now here is another blank. You have to do the same thing. Are you kidding me? Why do I need to retype the same data again? It's like insanity. And after all of this process, 1 week later, it's gonna be like worse interest rate. It's gonna be with I have to pay insurance that covers them, not me. And it's just insanity. And this is if I get lucky to get the loan. And if you wanna get a house in UK, it's a bit different. But here, it's extremely hard to get a loan, even if you have already a flat. And you're like, okay, I wanna buy this one. So literally, you give me the money, I buy it pretty much on your name, and I'm collateralizing the other flat that I have. So you have like double the collateral needed for the loan that I'm actually taking. So getting with your money one flat, and you have ownership of two, and they're like, no, sorry, you need to have this amount of salary and this amount of months in a row getting this salary in order for us to even consider you for a loan. What is this? Like, this is literally insanity.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's getting better. I remember back in the old days, it was even more difficult, but I think with DeFi, these things will get much easier, especially the small loans. Sometimes you don't want to sell your crypto for some, like, you want to buy something, and I mean, it's still a little bit of like gambling. I think Bitcoin will go up. I don't want to sell it because I don't want to lose on that opportunity. But I still want to buy something. I still want to buy a car, or I want to go to a holiday or whatever. And you can easily get it now. Like, it's not even super expensive. It's super easy. You don't need anyone. You don't need to sign any contracts apart from smart contracts. But it's super easy. It's like just the idea behind it. It's like super. I'm super excited about this. And just thinking about like what will come. Like, this is just. I have crypto, I put crypto and get fiat or stable coins or whatever, and then I can do something with it. But imagine if something similar starts happening with the real estate. Like, you can get a mortgage on blockchain for real estate. Imagine like what would happen with that. And what I like the most is you cut out the middleman. You become the bank.
Literally, I was just thinking that you have the money, you just put it on the blockchain, put it as stable coins. Whoever has on the blockchain has his real estate. That's the collateral. You feel 100% safe because the collaterals, let's say, different platforms or different smart contracts are going to offer a different ratio between the collateral and the in the loan. Let's say 3-1 or 5-1, and let's say that it's all grouped up with the idea that if one property turns out fake or some issues, and actually the value is much lower because it's all bundled up like an index. An individual investor is not going to lose money. It's just the total collateral of the whole index is going to be a bit smaller than expected, but everyone, the risk is going to be diversified across all the people in the pool. And literally all of this being done directly on the blockchain by just paying the Ethereum fee or whatever for signing the contract, getting the money and so on. And with Ethereum 2.0, pretty much it's going to be like free, like no fees whatsoever. It's just going to be instant transactions between people who have money and are, willing to own it, and people who want the money to do something with them. Because let's say 10% interest, if I have a proper business plan, I imagine to make like 100% profit this year with putting a lot of work into it. Yeah, sure, give me 500K, I'm going to open the business. By the end of the year, I'm going to, or let's say next 2 years, I'm going to be paying back the interest and all the down payments towards the loan. Everyone's happy. And right now, all of this happens anyway, but it happens through a bank that gives me 0.1% interest and charges the other guy 10% interest. Like, what? Yeah.
And not even that. It doesn't even take your money. So I think, I don't know when it happened, but So the history of how banking works was it used to be tied to gold, and then it became fractional reserve gold. So you still had to have like 10% of gold to have this fake money, the fiat, right? And then they removed even that. They said fractional reserve. You need to have 10% of deposits from people, and then the 90% you could print. So if someone deposited 10K, you could print 100K on top of that. That used to be. And now it's without backing. They can print, so the banks cannot print unlimited amounts of money, and they can lend it to you. Yes, they give you super low interest today, but still they're making money out of thin air, and then they borrow it to you for interest, and then you have to pay that interest. And I mean, who gave them that power? Just because they're banks? It doesn't seem like right to me, right? So they're making money from me, from out of thin air, just to provide this service, just because they have this privilege that they can print the money out of thin air. And I don't think that's correct. And by doing this, we're basically pushing them away. We are discontinuing their business model. I'm not saying it will happen in 1 year, but more and more, the bigger this market gets, the more people start using it, the less will people rely on all banks. And if you don't need the banks, do you still need central banks? And I think central banks they're such a big player in the world, and they can shift things that we can't even think about. And if you think that we can just take away some of their power just by doing this, just by decentralizing everything, that we become the banks, we don't need them anymore. We become the banks. We don't need central banks. We don't need the Fed anymore. I mean, as a government, you probably need some sort of those things, but you don't need the banks anymore as a normal person. You can get, like, I'm not saying today that's not possible. I mean, you can do certain things, but you can't buy a house unless you have like shitloads of Bitcoins, right? But I think in 5 years, 10 years, those things will be able, we'll be able to do that. And I think that's really exciting.
Ivanka,
I agree. Banks, they had monopoly so long that they didn't. All the technologies get better, but the banks just stay comfortable, expecting fee for everything. Now they will have serious competition, so will be the best for consumer, best for us. And I agree with everything. Crypto disrupt banks. We will not need banks. You said that central banks have a lot of power. I think they control the world, really, because they create the money. They can buy the government or people in the government. So they are on the top, I think. And they are private. For example, behind the Fed, there is no government. There are some private banks and people who control these banks. And this is a lot of power. This is a lot of power, which is very centralized. And this will be great for the people if that change. And crypto will change that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize it. They don't know that the Fed is basically a private company. So it's a private company with all that power. Imagine. Why do they have that power? Why don't we have the power? Why can't you just go open a PLC and now a Federal Reserve Bank? Why can't you do that? I mean, I understand they have like special restrictions, but so little is known. It's such a shady way that's handled, isn't it?
Yeah, and nobody teach that in the universities.
No.
10 years I study economy. Probably somewhere in the book I can read that, but it's like you can't change that. This is what it is.
Yeah.
You know nothing about that. You can just buy gold, for example. This was when I woke up to all this Ponzi economy. First thing that I did was buying gold. And after that, when I understood Bitcoin, this was the next step.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy, and we know all that only because we have internet, because there is free information Nobody can. Now with the Corona crash, I think they start censoring some stuff in YouTube, mostly about the virus, but sometimes crypto as well.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't have a YouTube channel, but there was like a period, like 6 months ago or 12 months ago, where they were like removing crypto channels, right?
Yes, a lot of the big crypto YouTube channels had their videos delisted and hidden, censored, and there was a lot of drama about it. Yeah, it continued like a few months. They were even looking at these decentralized alternatives and so on. But the issue with them is that they have super small traffic and don't have the network effect. Like everyone's on YouTube, literally, just everyone's on YouTube. So they pretty much have a monopoly. Something really large has to happen, and not just in the crypto space, because the crypto space is just small compared to, you know, all the rest of the media being put on YouTube.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, I understand that certain things can cause some damage, but I mean, we're going off topic, just one short thing, but who is YouTube to decide what is correct and what is not correct? And that's my biggest point. Like, who decides?
They say they have fact checkers, which is really stupid.
Yeah.
This is really stupid because they control, for example, now with the American election, and on the date when Biden become president, I know that YouTube had a lot of live videos, and there are a lot of dislikes of this video, and YouTube delete them, and they said this is spam.
Yeah.
This is like example. It's crazy.
No, I think it's the way this is shaping out. It just solidifies the need for decentralized everything. Like everything needs to be decentralized. There need to be rules that are equal for everyone, not that some person decides in one room, okay, I don't like this, but I like this, because everything is an opinion, and if everything is an opinion, then someone will always have a different opinion than me, and that's it. Big platforms like YouTube and Facebook and like Google search, like they shouldn't be interfering just because it goes against someone's agenda or someone's narrative, right? It shouldn't happen. But yeah, I don't want to go too political now. I think we had some questions about DeFi farming and yield farming and things like that.
Yeah. Can I say something before to finish all this? Because we said banks will be disrupted. We all agree that. How will the government will be disrupted? Because if we have decentralized money, DeFi, how will the government collect taxes? How they will do their job? They will just stay and look how we have loans from DeFi and everything, and just don't do nothing.
I mean,
for me, this is very interesting.
We still have to pay taxes,
government
though, no?
will be different. Sorry,
but we still have to pay taxes, though, and as long as we pay taxes, they have food on the table.
If you buy apartments or if everybody starts accepting crypto,
okay,
how would they collect taxes? If you pay with scaled BTC or BCH or Litecoin or everything, or Monero.
Right. Okay. Wait. So your Monero is 100% anonymous. No one knows your address. No one knows how much you have, and so on. Sure. Okay. But if you buy, let's say you buy a flat, they know the flat. It's on their register. The moment you buy it and the ownership changes, you owe the yearly tax, whatever it is, of the property, right? So they will still collect some tax there. First, secondly, for the change of ownership, if they do notice that there is too many, barter trades that are like, I'm gonna give you my Bitcoin, you give me your flat, that is supposed to be, you don't need to pay taxes, capital gain taxes on the Bitcoin, because you didn't per se sell it, you just, exchanged it for some other goods. What's going to happen is, I think that they're going to change the laws. That's it. It's going to be considered that you still owe 10% of, let's say, of the Bitcoin.
But we don't use banks. We say that we don't need banks. We go to market, buy tomatoes.
Yes. How is this relevant, though?
You can completely bypass banks and you still need to pay the taxes.
Yeah, they know your flat. They know the address.
And you pay taxes in what? In crypto or fiat?
In crypto.
The thing is, government is very powerful. They can force you. They can say, okay, you bought this flat with Monero, we don't care how you got it, but you need to give us all the transactions and you need to prove how you got it, and then you have to pay taxes on top of it. And
so let's say the tax is 10%. Let's say you buy the flat for, let's say, 1,000 Monero. They're gonna like give us 100 Monero on top of this. This is the fee that you owe the tax.
You can't see nothing on Monero blockchain. Anyway, they will ban Monero, for example. Let's talk about Bitcoin, which is more probable to use.
But even I think like buying a house, how big is that from like how much taxes do they get per year from just buying real estate? It's probably a small portion. I think the majority is from the normal salaries and people who still have to work.
Okay, who, for example, how many people now work for government in Bulgaria? Like 100,000, 400,000, something like that.
A lot, yeah.
If everything is on blockchain, how many of them had to find another job? And this is the last question about the government. I think this will change a lot. Like probably not like the banks, but this will change.
Yeah, I mean,
working.
I think the first step is the disruption of banks. So the banks are already being disrupted because they're inefficient. You already see like they're closing branches and those people are losing jobs. That's already happening. And I think it will only accelerate.
In UK, I forgot what was the number, but it was staggering. Like 2,000 branches on high streets across UK closed in the past 2 years or something. It was staggering amount of branches. I was like, the number was that every day 3 branches close. Something like that was the statistic. Every day 3 branches on a high street, on the main street of the town close. Like that's insanity. That's so many jobs and so much real estate being now freed up for someone else to take it.
Yeah. So that's already happening, and it will just continue until the banks will have just everything will be online. We all know I mean, it's so stupid that you still have to physically go somewhere to do things that then they type into the computer. Like, why can't they do just that from home, right? So that's,
a tax return.
You need some. In some cases, you need some human supervision.
In UK, I got a tax return from HMRC for last year. And they set a check to the place where I used to live. It's a tax return for 2019 or something. Like 1 year later they send it. I don't live anymore there. And my landlord's like, here's a check. And he's like, what do I do with it? And I'm like, please go to the bank to, deposit it because I need the money. And he deposits the check. And my point is like, why? Why did they need to send a physical piece of paper that then I physically have to go to the bank to deposit it? That's insane. Literally, just they know my data, they know my bank account. I provided it to them. They see from where they're collecting the taxes, they see from where I send it, they see the name, they can connect to the bank. Just deposit directly to my bank.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. It's mind-boggling how behind they still are. So I have a friend. He used to work in financial sector, like in a company that basically you can send money similar to TransferWise, but different company, but their core business was I send money to some from UK. I send money from UK to my parents, for example. That's their core business. And when this person joined, they didn't have an automated way of doing that. So basically, people called on the phone, and the person in that company picked up the phone and said, "Okay, this is a quote I can give you for 1 hour. If you confirm within 1 hour, I can give you this." And then you need to pay us within 1 hour. And if everything goes through, you get this quote. Otherwise, if it's delayed or you change your mind, you won't get this quote. And everything is like phone manually entered, and that person and goes to another system, enters that amount and purchase. Like it wasn't even automated. Imagine in today's world. And they were still doing this like last year. And he now wants to do a service for that other companies that are doing exactly the same. And he told me there are numerous companies transferring of money from one country to another, and they still have people on phones booking quotes. So say, okay, you get X amount for X amount of dollars if you send us money within 1 hour. That's still happening today. And so banks are still. So if you still have that today, imagine how much disruption can still happen. It's insane.
I can't wait for
Yeah.
all that new world.
And to go a step further, everyone knows that the governments are the most inefficient systems, or how you call it, entities, right? So governments are the most.
They don't care. No one keeps them in check. When I do a bad job at work, they can sack me. Like if they notice I'm underperforming, they're either gonna talk to me about reducing my salary, either gonna tell me, sorry mate, it's just not working out anymore, we're just gonna find someone else, thank you for your time. That's it.
Yeah.
When you are a government employee, like even if you do an official complaint, if you're, the best friend of your boss, he's not gonna sack you. That's it. You're protected. You have an umbrella on top of you. It's just blatant corruption, complete inefficiency, and on top of everything, like there is literally like not like usually in companies you have a target. So this year we want to achieve this and that. What do they want to achieve? The lady there that's working on as a cashier in the like in some government institution, she literally just doesn't care. Like she can be as inefficient as she wants. Their software can be as inefficient as they want. They don't have any reason to innovate whatsoever. Yes, sure, they save some money, and then what? They're like, we really don't care. We are going to save some money, some taxpayer money. Do we really care? Well, not really.
Yeah, and just an example, let's say in UK, they decided that you cannot leave UK now anymore for leisure. So the only way to leave is like I don't even know the rules, but like if I want to go back home to Slovenia now, I can't. I literally cannot leave the country. And they started doing this like 1 year after Corona hit. Why now? Why not 6 months ago? It doesn't make any sense. And even if let's assume that 95% of the people in UK disagree with this, we can't do anything. We're literally hostages in our own country because some politician there decided, oh, this seems like a good idea. Let's close the country now. That's like the numbers are going down massively. 1/3 of people already vaccinated. Like the other 1/3 of people already got COVID and everything. But no, let's close the country now. And you can literally not do anything, and that's like incomprehensible to me.
On that topic, actually, one of the Ivanka, you want to say?
No. I agree with everything.
On that topic, because one of the topics was how do you see yourself as a Brit or as a successful Slovenian immigrant in UK? Do you feel at home in UK? What is your personal goal with crypto? If you consider it a tool, what do you want to achieve using this tool?
I think there's like 4 questions, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I consider myself as a British person, and I think in future we'll return back. I think Slovenia as a country, even though we have our own problems politically and like everything, it's a very beautiful country. We have the mountains, we have the sea, we have nice weather, people are nice. Like the way we live in Slovenia is much better than here. You have more from life. I think here, especially, I don't know how life is outside of London. I live in London, but you don't have much from life. You basically just work, and then you have the weekends. And even I have 2 kids, and I don't want my kids to have this life, to be honest. And I know if they grow up here, they won't want to come back to Slovenia, and I don't want to take that away from them, because I think you can have much more enjoyment in life, much more value in life. Yes, you can make much more money here. That's definitely true. But now with remote working, with everything going online, with everything, if you truly want, you can make as much money as in London, for example, in everywhere. I mean, yes, you probably have a slight disadvantage, but you can still make a lot of money. But London is also expensive. So if you consider this, you can probably have a much better life somewhere where it's cheaper and you do everything remotely, versus being stuck in London and just trying to live this rat race, which, I mean, you can do it for a certain amount of time, and it's definitely a really good experience for me. You learn a lot. I mean, the biggest gain, I think, for me was you learn to appreciate what you what you have. Because if your entire life you're sitting in one bubble, you get used to it and you don't appreciate it. And that bubble can be the best bubble in the world, but you're still unsatisfied. Until you actually see how other people are living, you don't really appreciate it. And I think that's the biggest gift you can get. And I have other friends that came to London and went back home, and they said, even though it was difficult for them to be here, and even though it was a big change and it wasn't easy, they're super happy that they did it, because now every moment after they come back, they appreciate the little things that we in Slovenia take for granted. They appreciate them because they know a lot of people, they don't have this. You don't have the sea half an hour away with a car. You don't have the mountains. You don't have, like, you can't walk everywhere. You don't, like, the schools are safe. There is low crime rates. Like, all those things, it's simply different. And you don't have to commute 1.5 hours one direction to work, and you lose 3 hours per day, and you're completely tired when you get home. And even over the weekend, because the entire week is behind you, you're completely tired and you can't do anything. And then it's not a problem if you do this for a couple of
run from your office to Waterloo station, literally sweating and running, and then 10 minutes after the train was supposed to depart, to hear the train to somewhere is not delayed anymore, but it's cancelled. Really? Now you're gonna tell me 10 minutes after it was supposed to depart? Really? You couldn't announce like half an hour before that?
I know. I remember one day I was running like crazy to catch a train, and usually it's super packed and everything. And I was like I was late already. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna miss it. I really need to, because then the next train is delayed and then everything shifts. And I run like crazy. I jump into the train. I even find a seat, and I was like, fuck, I have a seat now. I sit down and I'm like super happy. I take my phone, start like looking things, and then the announcement, the entire the entire station is closed because there is power outage in Croydon, which is on the other side of London, and all the trains from here to Croydon are basically standing in standstill. Nothing is moving. You can't just go out and wait for the next train, because everything is, you have literally walked 30 minutes to another station, because that's the other train line that connects me. And that was happening on a regular basis. And it's, once you see how pointless the wasting of time is, just to sit in an office and be sitting behind your computer, it's completely pointless. And I'm grateful. I mean, there were moments that were difficult, but I'm grateful that I experienced that. And I'm grateful that in some future I can go back and then enjoy not doing this anymore and having the benefit of being here, for example, and experiencing this. And now I forgot the other questions, I think.
Wait, Banka.
What's your plan if you become financially free? If you, for example, play the bull run perfectly, or you have many savings, I don't know, but if you don't have to work, how you spend your day?
I think I'll still do something. It's just the luxury that I don't have to say yes to everything is super freeing. I think I want to like enter real estate market. Mm-hmm. Like buying some houses and renting them and maybe renovating them, things like that. That's something that's, for me personally, I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. I mean, not physically doing it, but thinking about how to do things like that. We have a house in Slovenia now that we bought, and we're renovating it, and it's something that fulfills you because you're creating something. You're creating. It's not like, I wouldn't, even if I got like 100 millions today, I wouldn't just say, okay, I'm not doing anything anymore. I would still do things for pleasure. And even though maybe the first thing I would start doing wouldn't be, I would say, okay, I'm not happy with doing this, but I would try to find something, because I think you can't be happy if you're just sitting on your ass all day. I don't think you can be. You have to create something. You have to have a goal. But but the fact that you don't need, this is not a restriction, you don't need to work for money, you work for your personal pleasure. That's the biggest thing that can happen. That's the really freeing, and it's really
yeah, you're a free person.
Yeah, you're free, even though I don't need to go to work, but I can have my own startup and work on my own thing, and that gives me my joy. Because I remember when I was a small child, and I love to play with Lego bricks. I don't know about you, but that was my biggest enjoyment of my life. And I remember how excited I was in the morning when I woke up and I said, I want to build this, and I want to have that in my life. So do something that excites me as much as those when I was playing as a small child is. And I think that's what you want to achieve. Not I mean, having enough money is just a tool to get there. It makes it easier. Definitely makes it easier. But it's, even if you have 100 million and you don't know what you want to do in your life, you won't be happy. And being able to do what you want to do, I think that's the greatest achievement you can have.
Thinking on that topic, I was thinking that everyone actually is free to do whatever he really likes and really brings him joy. The issue is that if it's not financially profitable, he'll be literally left on the street, literally, or he can just go do his 9-to-5 job, and then in his free time, the free time after already he's exhausted and after working only over the weekends and so on, do what he likes. So really what you said about the money, it's what it gives you is just the freedom to do what you like, regardless if it's that profitable or not. So you can, if needed, you can cushion it, support it until it becomes profitable, or even never becoming profitable. But this is the meaning of your life. You enjoy doing that. You like it. And maybe you like making some miniatures that no one likes. They're like, holy shit, what is this ugly shit? Like, are you gonna burn them after that? What are you gonna use them for? Start a fire? Like, I don't know, they're horrible. But you're like, no, look at them, they're amazing. And just love it. And just so beautiful. And then take picture of them. And then no one likes them. And maybe it's gonna continue like 5 years or whatever. But then finally it's gonna, actually kick off. And I remember, these famous artists, like they all died poor. Like no one liked their art. And then years later, like centuries later, people start appreciating their art.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, they created art and no one was appreciating it, but they enjoyed doing it. That was their life purpose, right? And that's something that's worth living for. It's not, I mean, I'm not saying that pursuing money is not joy. For some people, just the notion of pursuing and making money can be super fulfilling, and that's making them happy. And for those people, there is no money enough, because the process of making money for them is fulfilling, and that's their game. I don't think that's my game. I think I would like to be financially independent and and I don't need to go to work anymore, and then I can do whatever I want. And even if I change my mind every 6 months, at least I have the ability to do it. I have the luxury to do it. But that's really liberating, right? It's like I can do whatever I want, and now I have to decide what I want to do, and then I'll do it, and I'll try to enjoy it. And if I don't enjoy it, I'll do something else.
Yeah, you have choice.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in this country living on welfare, so they have enough money to survive. They can basically do everything they want with their time. But all they do is I'm not saying everyone is doing that. I'm not trying, but I see a lot of people, they just waste their life. They don't do anything. They don't do sports. They don't do anything. They watch Netflix the whole day. And I can see they're not happy, but they're just like so complacent about everything. They're just, I don't need to do anything. I'm just sitting in my house 24 hours and watching Netflix, and Netflix becomes boring after watching it 24 hours a day. And you have to have a goal in life, and then trying to reach that goal. That's Like that's the enjoyment for me.
Usually, the enjoying the journey, not just the end goal. And the other thing is though that usually it's a goal that you constantly keep on moving. You wanted to achieve this, you achieved it, and now you set a new goal. Let's say you want to learn to play the piano, and you kind of do learn it, and then you set a higher goal, you want to play this one, and then that one, and then I don't know, piano is really cool, but what about I don't know, like the trumpet or something?
Exactly, and if you said like, even if my goal would be, I want to learn piano and I just want to learn it for myself, I can do that and I can enjoy it and I learn, but no way I'll be able to make any money with that because I'll probably still be shit, right? But for me, it will be a nice journey. Oh, I learned to learn piano, I learned to play piano, and that's enough for me. But in today's world, you need to be really good at something that someone really needs to make money. And those two factors are quite... So I can be, for example, maybe I enjoy doing sports, but it's difficult to make money with sports. You have to be top 0.1%. You probably need to take some performance enhancements, things like that. You have to be genetically gifted. You have to start doing that sport by the age of 3. And if you don't have all those things, forget it. Even if you enjoy sport and even if you do, like, that's the main thing you want to do in life, you probably won't be able to support yourself. And that's the sad story, right? You can be like top 5% in the world, but you won't be able to make a living from it. And that's the reality. And that's why the money gives you the luxury to pursue things that you want to pursue without the need for you just to justify it financially. And I think that's priceless.
Beautifully put. So let's talk about the bull run and let's talk about cashing out. Firstly, have you cashed out anything yet?
No.
What? 60K was the top? How did you miss it? Like, you said you're in crypto for years, like that's it, from here we're going back to 10K. Okay.
Exactly. No, even if the 58K was the top and I have to wait another 4 years, I'm completely happy. It's not a problem for me. I mean, I have a decent salary. I don't have any financial needs that I need to make a shitload of money this year or next year. So that's not a problem for me. I have a certain amount of Bitcoins that I want to have. And if I sell now and Bitcoin goes to 200K, I can never buy them back. And that's my biggest fear. It's not that I won't make enough money. I know that in time I will make the money I want, but I don't want to waste the bullets I have at this moment, because the number of bullets I have is limited. Maybe for Michael Saylor they're unlimited, but for me they're not. So, yeah, and I think, my opinion, the bull run is not over yet. The biggest threat is if the stock market collapses. But even if that happens, it doesn't mean that the bull run is over. It just means it might have a break in between, and we see, I don't know, 40% drop or whatever, or 50% even if it's a big drop. But even if that happens, it will rebound. I mean, that's my personal opinion, and it will go higher. And I think it will go much higher than it was at 58K.
At what time frame are we talking about, though?
I mean, if nothing happens, I think by the end of this year, maybe October, November, December, and maybe it might even go prolonged into early next year. That's just pure speculation, but I think that's roughly the timeline if everything goes normally. But if there is like a massive stock market crash and Bitcoin drops, I think that might be even longer. And that's my opinion. It used to be roughly 1.5 years after the halving, give or take a couple of months. So after the halving, Bitcoin slowly started going up, and the peak was reached 1 year to 1.5 years after the halving. That happened 2 times already. This is the 3rd time now, and I think it will repeat the similar pattern. I know in 2013 we had basically a bull run, 80% correction, and another much bigger bull run, right? It was basically 2 bull runs, even though everything was still one
bull run with double top.
Yeah,
something like that.
But the correction was 80%. Imagine if we correct 80%. I think from 58k, that would be like almost 10k.
Yeah, 12k or something. Yeah.
Imagine if that happens, like everyone would be scared shitless.
Do you see another 80 to 85% correction or bear market?
To be honest, no, but if we don't know what will happen to stocks. And why I'm mentioning stocks always, because there's a lot of big players in crypto, and those players are invested in stocks as well. And they usually follow the same principles. They're either risk on or risk off. And when they risk off, they risk everything. And they're doing that because they're leveraged, not because they're spread really across everything. And when they think, okay, we need to deleverage and we need to pull out, they do it across all the assets. Even gold drops. Even though gold is like a safe haven asset, when we have a stock market crash, gold goes down and then starts going up. Yes, but the initial response is it drops. It dropped last March, it dropped in 2008 and 7, and it dropped in 2003. So gold initially drops, and I think Bitcoin will be similar. If we have a massive crash, I think Bitcoin is getting less and less volatile in general, and I think it will continue to do so. But we never had a massive stock market crash since it was created. And that's the unknown factor that I see.
Do you have opinion on bond market? Because for me, that's the most complicated asset class.
Yeah, I'm not super educated on bonds. I know some of the things, but I know everyone is caring now that, the 10-year bond yield is going up, which makes stocks less attractive. Yeah, and it is right, but I don't know. I'm not like an expert in bonds. I just know that the bond market it's in a weird situation now, and stocks are in a weird situation. The businesses are not working. Like, it's a weird situation now. That's why I'm a bit like, if this wouldn't be happening, I would say no, Bitcoin is going only up from here. But because everything is so, I don't know, it's difficult to put a finger what's happening now. But on one hand, Fed is printing unlimited amount of money. Bonds are behaving weirdly. The yields are doing strange things. I think we're in a time that hasn't happened so far. It never happened before that the central banks were printing so much money. I don't think, yes, we had World War I and World War II when businesses were shut down, but it was still different. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not saying sell your spot Bitcoin. I'm just saying, even if something happens, Bitcoin will rebound. But if you have leverage positions, this can bring high volatility. And some people can take advantage of it, but the average Joe just gets decimated by the volatility.
If you see big crash, where you will feel safe? In cash, in dollars?
Well,
gold,
during a big crash,
Bitcoin?
sounds to me like you need cash, yes, so you can buy the dip, literally.
Yeah.
So if you see this crash coming, you will sell all of your crypto? If you're almost 100% sure panic is coming, crash is coming, we will sell all of your Bitcoins, for example, or you will feel safe to keep some?
No, I'll keep, because I don't think...
We will sell it at all then.
No, I won't.
Did you sell on a Corona crash?
Even if it's, no, I didn't sell. I had some, leverage positions. I was even liquidated on one of those because I was underestimating the impact. But that was a learning process for me. And I didn't sell any spot. I was even buying. I had the lowest bid I was filled, I think, was on Ethereum for $90 in last March. And I think it went to 89, something like that. So it was just, that was basically the lowest it went. I mean, I had orders above that and even lower than that. But I was buying at that point. But the leverage positions, that's where I got wrecked, basically. Because with leverage positions, if it's Bitcoin denominated or crypto denominated, let's say you have, I don't know, 0.1 Bitcoin and you open a 10K position, you can lose up to, I think, 33% on that ratio. But if it goes down by that much, then you deposit more Bitcoin. But in theory, if it goes down 80%, you need to deposit like 10 times as much Bitcoin just to be on the safe side. And that's where it becomes dangerous, right? Because if I put 10K in fiat as my collateral, and I open a 10K position, it literally has to go to zero for me to get liquidated. On Bitcoin, I can put like 100K of Bitcoin, but if I open a 20K position and Bitcoin goes down 80%, I'm liquidated. Even though I put much more money in initially than my position is open, because the value of my collateral also went down by Bitcoin price. That makes it dangerous. So yeah, playing with leverage in flash crashes, that's quite dangerous. And unless you really know what you're doing, I would advise against it. Or, I mean, have a stop loss and then just be comfortable with the money you lose. Yeah.
At what price do you see Bitcoin in the next 5-10 years? Do you see some other investment class could outperforming Bitcoin? Do you see anything else that is meaningful?
I think Ethereum, like with Ethereum 2.0, like everything is built on Ethereum. I know people are saying, yeah, high fees, blah, 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 it's not working, it's slow. Everyone was saying the same for Bitcoin in 2017. The reason why it's expensive is because everyone is using it. Yes, of course, Nano is basically free, but how many things are running on Ethereum at the moment? And that's the thing that proves value. It's not how everyone can do some, like I can fork, I don't know, Ethereum today, and I say, oh, it's almost free, right? Even though it's the same code. What gives it value is how many people are using it, how many things are built on top of it, and the developers. I think some of the smartest developers in the community are building on Ethereum, and that's what gives it value in the long term. I'm not saying there can't be an ETH killer, but I think Ethereum is like 3 years ahead of other projects, at least at the moment, and maybe in 3 years this will change. But at the moment, I think after Bitcoin, Ethereum is the safest bet.
So in your portfolio, you keep Bitcoin, Ethereum, and DeFi. Do you keep some Ethereum killer, for example, Cardano or something like that?
I have Cardano. I'm staking Cardano. I have Polkadot. I have.
But how do you see them? Do you see them with any chance outperforming Ethereum?
It's difficult to say.
We never know. Yeah,
it's difficult. Like, how many Ethereum killers were already out there and nothing happened, right? So it's like there were Bitcoin killers, nothing happened. There were Ethereum killers. Usually with this kind of things, I mean, I think Bitcoin has a distinct advantage that it's much less about technology. It's more about the concept and the trust and the security of the network. With Ethereum, I think Ethereum can be easier disrupted than Bitcoin at this point, because if something comes that's monumentally better than Ethereum, people will start using that. We already have things that are on paper better than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin still has the value because it was the first people trusted And if you start looking at something that's better than Bitcoin on paper, you can have every week you can have another coin that's even better, and then it loses all the value, right? And no one wants to do that. So I think Bitcoin is quite solidified in the way of it stores the value. But on the other hand, Ethereum is like 3 years, in my opinion, ahead of other chains. And maybe I'm doing it injustice, or maybe I'm doing another chain injustice, but I haven't looked so deeply into other chains. There's so many. I think Cardano is interesting, but it's really early. They still don't have smart contracts. Polkadot is interesting, but it's too early. So a lot of those things that are early, it's like I put a small percentage of my portfolio in just in case it plays out. But I think all of those are quite like for the amount of promises they delivered so far, they're already quite overpriced, right? Yeah, and that's what. Scary for me. I mean, scary. It's like if there would be a Polkadot and their market cap would be 5 million, then yes, that would be super interesting. But like all those Ethereum killers are almost like 50% of Ethereum market cap, and they're not nowhere near. And that ratio doesn't give me like it's not a good risk benefit for me.
I wanna bring a topic that I can't remember who was it, maybe Raul Paul talking about it, about collateralizing your Bitcoin, so you never sell it. And if people actually start doing that, the price is gonna skyrocket, because the pond is gonna go dry. Like there is no liquidity anymore. Like you can't buy Bitcoin because people just collateralize it and use the money. Of course, not everyone is doing it, and this is why we have the liquidity and so on. But it's a trend. It's not even a trend. It's a topic that people start bringing up more and more on these podcasts that I watch. And what do you think about that? What do you think about, let's say, just random portfolio? Let's say you have 10 Bitcoin, and 10 Bitcoin, let's say at the moment at 50k or whatever it is, doesn't matter, 46, 47, doesn't matter. At 50k, that's with 10 Bitcoin. Oh yeah, super, easy math. So with 10 Bitcoin, 10% is 1 Bitcoin, right? So you have 50k. Yeah. You can take 50k right now as a loan by collateralizing your 10 Bitcoin, and the only way for you to get liquidated, to lose all your Bitcoin, is to have around 87% Bitcoin crash. 87%. The chance of that is not zero, but it's quite low. And the idea is, if Bitcoin goes to, let's say, 100k, then you can get a new 50k loan against your collateral, and you still have only 10% of the value taken out. And then let's say Bitcoin dips from 100k to 60k. Big deal. You still have your collateral is so much more. You took 100k loan and your collateral is 600k. You're not getting quickly liquidated. And then if you shoot up to 200k, you can get another 200k as a loan. And this way, literally, you can just live off of your Bitcoin without ever selling it by taking 10%. If you want more money, you can do that. You're gonna hire the risk. If you take 20% or 30% or 50% of the value of the Bitcoin. What do you think about that?
I think in concept it's a good idea. I'm just not sure, because you still need to pay off that credit with something, right? I don't know how that works. So at some point you have to pay something back. It's not indefinite. I can get 50k for 100 years, and I don't need to pay even the interest, and I need to pay the interest at the end of the loan. It probably doesn't work. If that would work like that, then you could do it, like you could just continue doing it. On the other hand, we have, it's usually we have cycles, and every cycle is like 1.5 years of bull trend, and then you have 1 year of massive drops, and then you have like 2 years like sideways. That's usually how it goes. And it's just that volatility, right? That makes it a little bit more risky, because imagine you put 10 Bitcoins in to get 50k out, and okay, 10 Bitcoins is like 500,000 now. And you did that at the top. Let's say it was a top. And then Bitcoin goes down 70, 80%. So you're quite close your liquidation price. You probably won't get liquidated, but you never know. And then imagine like, okay, Bitcoin drops 80% and then the stock market crashes. And then you can have a flash crash, and then even if it goes, you get liquidated. So it's highly unlikely, but for some people, I wouldn't feel comfortable. That's me personally. I think it's a good idea if you can do it, but it works if Bitcoin would be less volatile, and I think it will become less volatile in the future. And I think at that point it will make much more sense to do that. But so far, I still think it's quite volatile. And that volatility makes me a little bit nervous. That's my opinion. But I think if that goes away, because I was thinking, one thing that makes Bitcoin volatile is every 4 years you have the halving, and the block reward goes down by half. But that halving reward is also a certain percentage of all the Bitcoins in circulation. At some point, I mean, the bigger the reward, the bigger the selling pressure in percentage against the whole Bitcoin in circulation, right? But let's say in 8 years, after two halvings, that reward will be so small compared to all the Bitcoins in circulation that won't be the biggest selling pressure anymore. And I think when that happens, that's my opinion, that the halvings will lose that effect. So every halving will have less effect because the selling pressure is much lower. So I think like from 2013 to 2016, the selling pressure, like compared to everything else, was in percentage-wise was quite big. And then that selling pressure halved against everything else, and now it halved again, and it will halve again. So, and that's what I think the halving effect will. I mean, it will still have an impact. Don't get me that, but it will have less and less impact on the price, on those massive fluctuations. It will have an effect that it's a deflationary. There is a limited amount of Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong, but the main thing that was holding Bitcoin down after the halving, like after it made a peak, there was so many miners selling Bitcoin that drove the price down, and also people who were basically trying to capitalize their gains. But at some point, that sequencing of it will be less impactful because the reward will be just so small that the miners, the people already owning Bitcoin, in percentage of the block reward will be, that block reward will be so insignificant compared to that whole bag of Bitcoins that it won't make such a big dent anymore. I think that will be much easier to implement and less scary, I guess. At least for me personally, yeah. I wouldn't like to be at 80% down and 10 Bitcoins into a loan.
Yes, you mean that the bull market and the bear market are not gonna be like 100x up, 5x down, 100x up, 5x down every single time. It's gonna become, let's say next time, 20x up to x down, and then 10x up, and then half an x down, and so on. Well.
I think that you see fiat money continuing too long. I don't see 10-20 years halving and still Bitcoin will not have value in fiat. I think so. I don't know. Pламен, I think things different, that fiat will stay forever. Not forever, but will stay longer.
Yeah.
5, 10, 15 years, okay, but I don't think with all this printing and all this, for example, the US debt clock, when I see these numbers always growing, I don't know if you know this website, and I just see that hyperinflation coming, and at some point, I don't know when, but this will come at some point.
Okay, just a second, Aleš, on that topic. So I am of the opinion that fiat is gonna continue to exist for sure for the next 10 years, most probably for the next 20 years, most probably for the next even 30, 40, 50 years. You're talking about hyperinflation. Here is why. The society is so clinched into fiat, we're so used to it, that I feel like a few generations have to change in order for them completely see it as the super worst shitcoin ever to ditch it completely. And this cannot happen. I don't think it's gonna happen in the lifetime of the current generation. I think it's gonna happen a bit later, so in like 50 years.
Right now, Bitcoin is 1 trillion.
Yes.
It could be 5 trillion until the end of this bull market. Next bull market, 1 to 2 million, I think is normal in 5 years.
Sure.
This you can see on stock to fall, for example, model of 1B. How many trillions is that? After 5 years, how many trillions again? This is sucking value from fiat, from real estate, from everything, but mostly from fiat. You can't have Bitcoin value and fiat value the same, for example. At some point, if Bitcoin continue growing like now, we should see the end of fiat. Because countries, for example, this can be a question to you, Aleš. For example, MicroStrategy is the first company, but we will soon see first country that will make Bitcoin in the country's reserves. I think this is 100% expected and sure.
And I don't know if you're aware, but the Miami is they're investing. Miami as a city is investing, or they want to invest in Bitcoin. I think they're already doing the steps necessary. I don't know if they already did, but if a city can do that, then the next step is a country, right?
And they will trade. This will be world reserve. They will trade oil. They will trade valuable stuff with Bitcoin. Yeah, I think so. Again, we are talking 5, 10, 15 years probably in the future. Not tomorrow, not the next year.
Yeah.
But this is coming.
This
is very possible. I can't say it's coming. I think it's possible, probable.
That black guy, whatever his name was, some politician, do you remember that he said that Bitcoin makes their currency literally pointless? Do you remember who was he?
Nigerian, some guy in the Nigerian parliament.
Yeah, so he said pretty much because of their inflation and poor currency management, that he said pretty much Bitcoin is making their currency not worthless, but like pointless. Like it's better, let's use Bitcoin, that's it.
Some countries are mining now.
Exactly, I was just gonna go there, that a few countries actually already are mining, and also, if I'm not mistaken, they're internationally trading, especially the ones with sanctions, and also they're actually thinking about hoarding it. They're mining it to hoard it and to use it as money, and not just, you know, like for the profit.
I think North Korea is also owning a lot of Bitcoin.
Could be.
Just as one country. But yeah, I think a lot of governments already own it in one way or the other. Maybe not intentionally. For example, the US government owns a lot of seized Bitcoin, I think, and so on. The Korean government, I think they got the Bitcoin, their hands on Bitcoin by hacking different things. I don't know, and so on. So I think the next step is when one government decides, okay, we'll put some of our own money as reserve instead of buying gold, that they'll buy Bitcoin. I think that's completely possible. So, for example, Russia and China, they're hoarding massive amounts of gold, for example. And the next step is like one country will say, no, we're going to buy, like, we're going to put 5% of our money reserve into Bitcoin. Why not, right? It's totally plausible. And I also think if this printing, I mean, when this printing continues, dollar loses value, dollar loses trust, and I think something will happen with the dollar. And a lot of people are saying that the next biggest country will become the global reserve money, right? So dollar is currently everything you want to buy oil, you need to pay it in dollars, right? And some people are saying like the next biggest country is now China. If dollar loses face value because they're printing unlimited amounts of money. So why would you trade in something that one country is printing in unlimited amounts of money? Like why? Why would I pay in dollars, which I need to buy with my currency, but you can print it in infinitely amounts? Like why would I do that?
Because you know how the proof of work of the dollar is the US Army.
Yes.
Not the us ASICs.
Yes.
A lot of power behind that. It's only that. I'm sure it's only that. If there is no this how was the name we have in Bulgaria, in almost every country in the world, US bases. If there is no this kind of bases that control this place, I think so. Everybody can use whatever they want.
Yeah.
Or these countries with oil, they have some agreement with the US that the US will protect them from the neighbors, and they agree to sell the oil for the dollars.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the last thing that holds the dollar up, just the national trade.
But the dollar, I still think it's like the Bitcoin of the fiat currencies. Probably the dollar will be the last to fall. I think so. It's possible to be the last, because when other countries start to see hyperinflation, for example, some of the people will still go to not directly to Bitcoin. The young people probably will go to Bitcoin, but the older people, for example, in Bulgaria, we saw hyperinflation 25 years ago, something like that. And I'm sure many people bought dollars at that time. And the old people remember that. So again, they can buy dollars. But I'm not sure. I have no idea how all this play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's early. It's still early. The signs are here, but it's still early. And I think it's really difficult to know what we're gonna have. You know that something is gonna happen and things have to change, because this cannot continue forever. But it's difficult to say what exactly will happen.
I was thinking if actually indeed, let's say in 5-10 years, whenever Bitcoin becomes the world reserve currency, and fiat dies, all fiat, dollars, euro, level, our currency, and so on, it makes sense to me. I can just picture it in my head. I can picture like Lightning Network or whatever, for just using your phone, scan a QR code or whatever, just like how is it called, the the way the debit cards work, like, just like get it goes by to something, you just pay, that's it. And with layer 2 solutions, the transactions becoming instant. You don't put on blockchain anything except actually it's an important transaction that you need. And the other thing is, like, why the fuck do I always need to think, okay, I'm going to France, what currency do you use? Oh, it's a euro. Okay, so I need to buy euro. And then when I go there, how much is this? It's 5 euro. Okay, so how much is this in my money? Right, it's that much. Oh, okay, so it's expensive. Okay. Why do I need to do all of this calculation? Let's say Bulgaria is a poor country. Let's say US is a very expensive country. Okay, let's say that here it's a $10 a night the rent, and let's say Airbnb in the States like $50 or $100, doesn't matter. That's it. If you just speak in only dollars or only in satoshis or only leva, it's going to be so much easier to be able to do all of this. So to me, the whole system with multiple currencies, it's hard for people today when we travel so much, when the borders are so open, when international trade is such a big thing. It's such a legacy system. And now with all the printing, we talk about the US printing, but it's not only them. Euros are being printed insane amount as well. So everyone's printing. The printers go everywhere. It's not just the US. So, and the people who get fucked are the people without assets. These are the people that suffer the most.
Exactly.
Not the banks, not the parliament, not the politicians, not the Baba Yellen, anyway, and not the Christine Lagarde. The people without assets suffer the most from all of this printing. We are not the ones getting 0% interest loans like Michael Saylor.
Yeah.
He has fucking 5 yachts and 10 villas on Miami Beach. That's what he has. Like, do we have that? No. So we are getting fucked. Well, his 5 million mansion is gonna be worth 10 million next year. He's making money. Just sleeping, he's making money.
Exactly. And I think the rich get richer with this and the poor get poorer, except for people who know how to take advantage of this. And I think, we saw it happening, like even in Slovenia, when we were still in Yugoslavia. That's the generation of my parents. Not a lot of people, but some people got really rich because we had hyperinflation. And the way they did it, they bought a couple of houses for a loan, and in a couple of years that loan was basically worthless compared to the price of the house. And they basically, in 5 years, they got like all the houses they bought 5 years ago were basically paid off. The salary went up, the house prices went up, but the loan was still the same value. And I think something similar will happen. We'll have a hyperinflation globally, and when that happens, some people will make a lot of money. Other people will suffer a little. I don't think it will make everyone poor. I think some people just take more advantage than the other. And then after it stabilizes, it'll go back to normal, so more or less.
It's a zero-sum game, though. I disagree that some people are going to take advantage of it, and some people, it won't affect them much. The people who are going to sell the houses to the people getting the loans for these houses, they will fuck themselves. Just recently on one of my streams, I went through this tweet. Actually, I think you sent it to me. About the hyperinflation in Germany. Didn't you send it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there they were talking how these people are crazy to pay this amount of money for this shit house. And he sold the house. And then next year, the house was triple the value. But he realized what mistake he did, but it was too late.
Yeah, and he wasn't able to afford that house anymore. Even though he sold for profit, he was now a poor guy, right? And that's something that could potentially happen. We don't know. Everything can happen. We're in uncharted territories. Never in the history the government's printed so much money so recklessly. Never have we stopped the entire, half of the world is basically stopped because of COVID. Businesses are shutting down. It doesn't seem like it's getting better, to be honest. Like just 2 days ago, I saw an article on BBC. The UK government decided, in order to boost the economy, to raise the taxes for corporate taxes. Like that doesn't make any sense. Yes, they said from 2023, but you don't boost the economy by raising taxes. Lower the taxes so that the money can flow. And it doesn't look good for businesses. It doesn't look good for anything. They're printing massive amounts of money. Someone will either need to pay off that, or we go into hyperinflation. And I don't think at some point we won't be able to pay it off, and the only answer will be hyperinflation at that point.
Yeah, because in every crisis, the printed amount got bigger and bigger. 2008, how many billions? Now we're talking in trillions.
Yeah.
It's Zimbabwe. The world is Zimbabwe.
And I think when I was like $1 million was like, that was the amount. When you had 1 million, that you were basically retired, right?
Yeah.
And today, like globally speaking, 1 million is not that much money anymore. It's like
1 million is 2 flats in Sofia now. Two very nice flats, which is what in 10 years ago you can buy whole building. Probably. Yeah. No, not like so much big difference, but something like that.
I don't think that the house prices went up that much. Fiat was devaluated by that much, and I think this is already a sure sign, but it's only accelerating from here. And the prices will, the fiat will be devaluated every year more and more, and
this is the beginning. Last year was the beginning. Michael Saylor, I think he saw this. This is the beginning.
I think so, yeah. And
for all these corporations, 5% inflation is not a big deal. But 20% inflation, the whole business model now is changing. Because, for example, in Venezuela, how is it in English?
Venezuela.
Businesses everything is going down because of that hyperinflation. You cannot change prices every day and make plans for after 2 months or 2 years.
Yeah,
it's a mess. It's just a mess.
And I think a lot of those people are using Bitcoin, but I think majority is using like dollar, for example. And dollar in Venezuela is much more expensive just because it's so hard to get to buy some dollars.
Because it's on black market.
It's on black market,
because government want you to be backholder of their shitcoin.
But if the whole world goes into hyperinflation, then the only thing left is Bitcoin, right? And imagine like everything going in hyperinflation. Yes, your properties like real estate will keep. It's probably slightly delayed, but it will roughly keep the real value. But then Bitcoin will increase, right? So if this happens, Bitcoin and real estate property, like land property, anything that has a value will probably keep the value. Everything that's fiat denominated, it's gonna lose.
I'm not sure if this story is true, but in Weimar Republic, when this hyperinflation happened, in some books there is a story that a few gold coins can buy a whole building. Yeah. I'm not sure, probably it's not a few, probably it's 20, 30 gold coins, but one gold coin is very valuable thing at that time in the history. Yeah. Now could be one Bitcoin. One Bitcoin could be something very, very valuable, very expensive.
Yeah, I think, I mean, all of this is speculation, obviously. Until it happens, it's difficult to say what exactly will happen, to what extent it will happen, when will it happen, but we can all speculate and we can prepare it, because I think it started to happen. The only question is how quickly will it accelerate and how insane it will get. That's, I think, the two biggest questions.
Can I ask you about this coronavirus? Do you see some conspiracy behind it, or it's a really dangerous thing? How do you really feel about this story?
I mean, I had it, and it was like a couple of days for me. It wasn't too difficult. I mean, it wasn't too hard. Even my mom had it. She's almost 70 years old, and she has high blood sugar, high blood pressure, so all those comorbidities that make it dangerous. I'm not saying it wasn't easy for her, but she's perfectly fine now. So I'm not saying this is it's not happening. There is no COVID, but I'm saying that the governments are abusing it for their own agendas. That's my opinion. I'm 100% sure it's happening, but it's just being abused. It's basically a tool for money making for them. Like, people are making so much money, some groups of people so much money right now. So it's the pharmaceuticals, they're making a lot of money, people providing PPE, so all the protection gear, people doing the quick tests. So for example, I have a colleague, she's a makeup artist, and she just went to Paris last week, and it cost her 225 euros just to go there and back, just for the tests. I mean, her employer paid for that, but imagine those tests cost like probably €1 per test if you buy them in bulk. And it's insane. A lot of people are making a lot of money, and I think that's the conspiracy, just greediness of people. And I think there are treatments out there that can help out. I'm not saying cures, but treatments that improve your possibilities. Vaccines help and all of that, but like initially it was just, let's flatten the curve, right?
Yeah.
Just flatten the curve. Don't overrun the hospitals. In UK, we have now almost 1/10 of deaths per day that we had at the peak. 1/10, 10%, and now we're closing the country. Like, what's the rationale behind that if it's really just to save our hospitals, right?
What do you think about this? Do you know this thing about the Great Reset that Christine Lagarde is talking about? Probably they plant some. This whole thing is planned. I don't know how to say it.
I think it's multi-layered. That's my opinion. I think there are some players that they're doing this shifts that no one is even aware what they're doing, and then you have different levels, and everyone is playing their part. And the players above them, they know how to play those players below them, just because everyone is greedy. And I think that's the game. I think
100% agree.
I think the corporations, the pharmaceuticals, they're making shitloads of money. Like people in hospitals. So I know some people that work in hospitals, and the things they're telling me are different than official versions, just because they get 80% on top of their salary. I'm not saying that the people working in intensive care units, they really deserve that money. But for example, dentists, why do dentists get, like in Slovenia, dentists get 80% on top of their salary, and no one is going to dentists because everyone is scared of Corona. So they don't do anything, and they still get 80% of top. So why would you stop that? They're just, so a lot of those medical professionals, they get a lot of money additionally just to play their role, and then it's like they're happy with it. I would also be happy getting 80% more for not doing anything. And then you have the providers, then you have the pharmaceuticals, then you have the politicians who basically have companies providing equipment, and everything is interconnected because of money, because they're making money. And yes, people are suffering, people are dying, but also those tests, they're super unreliable, right? It's like even Musk said he took 4 tests and 2 were negative. Right? How can you trust them? How can you trust a test like that? Like, and you base all those numbers on fake tests, and then you say if you then die within 28 days of a fake test, then it's COVID death. So, and I think 92% of people that died because of COVID are above 55 years anyway, which means after 55, after 60 or 70 years old, a lot of people die. Like in UK, where it's almost 80 million people, a lot of people die per day anyway due to different reasons. And for some example, if you had a positive test, which is fake anyway, I mean 50% fake, let's say, the numbers are massively inflated for just. And I'm not saying, as I said, I do believe that like the COVID exists. It's definitely dangerous for elder people. But it's massively overblown just for profits. That's my idea.
Okay. I agree again.
Okay, I guess we should end it here. It's been already 2 hours and 15 minutes of a podcast. But we should get you again at 100K. To discuss. We'll see when that's gonna happen, in 2 months, in 6 months, in 10 years, we'll see. But let's make another podcast together at 100K, okay?
Definitely, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this. I think it was a really good conversation, and yeah, let's do this again. 100K, a million, 10 million, all the big. Yeah. Okay, thanks for having me, and I'd like to say hi to everyone that's watching, even though when I'm not talking in your native language. I hope you understood that conversation.
I was gonna say there was actually someone I should have read it at the spot, but I didn't want to interrupt. There was someone who is actually in Slovenia right now. There you go. So Abraham Link said, "Ciao, Aleš. Jaz sem iz Slovenija." Stay on the line for a bit longer, please. So, лека вечер на всички и ще се видим утре за Q&A или в понеделник за добро утро крипто. Ванка?
Това е приятна вечер на всички. Не знам колко човека сте гледали. И се извинявам за слабия ми английски, но мисля, че се получи добър разговор като цяло.
Чао, лека.
Ciao.